Good evening. Thank you for joining us as we discuss our very special place tonight at Sweetwater Orphanage, just outside of Hue in South Vietnam. Our show tonight on Lessons of Vietnam, we'll talk about the trip that North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated and myself went back to Vietnam on 2 trips. We'll talk about the orphanage and so forth. But the show is broadcast from the studios of Nissan Communications, where they graciously give us the chance to tell the real story of the Vietnam War and those who fought in it. I'm your host, Bill Dixon, Vietnam veteran, 67, 68. I was at Long Binh Post. I'm a member of North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated, which we talked about, went back to Vietnam. I'm vice president of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 530, out of Durham. I'm a member of the board of directors for the state of North Carolina on the Vietnam Veterans of America. I am a commander of American Legion Post 297, a member of Veterans of Foreign War 8466 in Wake Forest. So I walk the walk, and not a Vietnam expert at all, but it is important to do the research and get the correct word out. As you're seeing there the crisis line. I meet 2 or 3 women last week who said, my husband never talks about it. And if you've got a Vietnam veteran in your life and they don't talk about Vietnam, I can tell you they're in Vietnam every day. Something takes them back to Vietnam every day. Encourage them to join a veterans organization like NCBI or Vietnam Veterans of America, and they can talk to and will talk to other veterans who were there. Another good resource is the vet centers. What goes on at the vet center stays at the vet center. It does not go on your permanent records at all. It went through the VA. They're separate. And join one of the groups. I was at Group Wednesday, and we laughed just about the entire time, telling our stories and so forth, which weren't funny back then, but they were funny now. So reach out there and touch a vet. Back to the first page. No, I need to tell them how to join the show. Go back. There you go. Those of you out there who would like to take part in the show, be sure to give us a call at 919-518-9773, or even better, go on Skype, and it's to Computers 2K Voice. And if you ever went to the Nook Sweetwater Orphanage, let me know. I know there were several. It was originally set up as an American orphanage for American children. Okay. And several different groups, American soldiers during that period of time. The Vietnamese Americans are those who were born to an American soldier and a Vietnamese mother during the time of the Vietnam War in the 1960s and early 70s. Outcast in Vietnam, most are now in America living in poverty. Few have even seen their fathers. They were treated really bad during the Vietnam War. They were treated even worse by the communists. In Vietnam, they were called half-bloods, or most of what I heard them is children of the dust. They had no fathers in a land where fatherhood is strong. They were mixed in a land where even almost everyone is pure Vietnamese. To the Vietnamese, they looked like black and white Americans. They looked like the enemy of a long war and country broken by that war. These children quite often had nowhere to go, but the Catholic nuns ran the orphanage there. It's a group of Catholics, which home office or whatever you would call it, monastery is out of Maryland someplace. But those Catholic nuns do a fantastic job. In fact, I had found a picture of a nun accepting some money from an American soldier to help out the orphanage. It was taken in 1965. Now, when we went back to this orphanage in 2009, I showed the picture to the Mother Superior, and she recognized the sister was in the picture. So it goes way on back. Okay, Vietnam in 1968, the day men from the 4th Battalion, 707th Field Artillery were overcome by a force that won their hearts. These children need our help, said a Cobra Crew chief for B Battery of 4th Battalion, 7th Artillery, 101st Airborne Division. They didn't choose to be here. They can't feed themselves. They can't defend themselves. They are as human as you and me, and we're here to show our support. The 101st Airborne Air Mobile has been supporting Nook Orphanage in a way for the past 3 years. In other words, since we arrived in the area. And that's one of the reasons we fell in love with the kids. Now, this is our trip. 12 of us was going on this particular trip. We have just landed at Tonsanute Air Base. And as you can see there, some of the revetments left over from the war. We got some helicopters in there. That part of Vietnam, which is basically like it was just like when I was there in 67, 68, up until you got to the terminal. The terminal is a modern, fantastic facility. It's really nice. You process through there, but there's one of the airplanes at Tonsanute International Terminal. Tonsanute used to be outside on the edge of Saigon. Now it's kind of in the middle of Saigon or close to the middle. There's our group as we're checking in there. That's our guide with the pink hat on, Song as we call him. The guy standing in the middle with the green hat on is Ron Harris. Right across from him is it was a door gunner with one of the pilots took his entire crew back with him when they went. And let's see, standing in the back there in the red and the glasses, I see Lee Wilson. She was the only woman I know in Vietnam who took a rifle or carried a rifle. You can see her on one of the other shows. There's Dave Samuels behind that and Bud Gross. And another one of the with Song is one of the crew members. Okay. Now here we are leaving the terminal. As you can see, the typical traffic of Vietnam as we're going on, going to our hotel, rest a little bit. Okay. This is what we called our group. It was NCVI, but it was a bridge-back group, which was the beginning of the Lessons of Vietnam school curriculum and the trips back and trips to the national teachers conventions and so forth. Okay. Now here we are. The group, as you can see, is a good-looking group. Standing in front of the presidential palace there in Vietnam. The little young lady on the front there is Sue Vaughn. She was not a Vietnam vet, but she liked Vietnam vets, and she was a friend of Bob Matthews' sister, who was the guy standing on the end with the satchel and the hat on with his in front of him. But that's the crew that went back to Vietnam in 2009. Okay. Now we arrived at the orphanage. Nuc Noc Children's Center. English translation was Sweetwater. And as you can see in the front of right there, all that concrete is that green you see there is moss and mold growing on that concrete. It's all broken up. But that's some of the sisters and the children at the orphanage. What we did before we left for Vietnam was what can we do over there? And it was suggested by Global Spectrum, who did our trip for us, that we work with an orphanage and that used to have ameliorations. So we asked them what they needed, and we felt like they needed medicine or sheets and bedding and so forth. And what they told us was they needed bicycles. Now, at the orphanage there, the children were allowed to go to the orphanage school up until about the 3rd grade. And after that, they have to go to the government schools to be taught properly. And there's no school bus system, and the kids had a long route, some of them as much as 5 miles to get to school. So we bought 60 bicycles in Vietnam. And this is us arriving there in Vietnam with the sisters coming out and the kids coming out to greet us. Okay. This is one of the sisters. Now, this young man here was at that time 7 years old. He suffers, we think, from Agent Orange. They didn't think he had ever reached 12. I don't remember exactly what the disease was that he has, but he was kind of all the kids there at the orphanage kind of played with him all the time. He was a special young man there at the orphanage. You can see some of the kids and so forth with one of the sisters. This is the classrooms there at the orphanage. It's kind of U-shaped. As you can see there, the mold is not as bad, but it's pretty bad shape there in the classrooms. But that is the classrooms. It had rained, so the water was standing and so forth. This is looking out from the road. This is the bus we came in on. If you notice that area of green on your right, that will play promptly as you see it. The building on your left is where you saw the bridge back sign, and right in front of us is the school. classrooms and so forth, but that's the entrance to the orphanage. We wanted to send him some other stuff, clothes, medicine, personal stuff, and we discovered that it was gonna cost so much to, mail stuff or ship stuff that we actually ended up carrying 37 extra suitcases, what was cheaper, and you can see it was full of clothing and toys and just about anything you ever could have there, and we, brought it out for the kids to see and so forth, for the sisters to, uh, hand out as they saw fit. Now, this young lady kinda got things started. That's Ron Harris talking to this young lady in a wheelchair. I want you to remember her a little later, but she would just go up and speak to her. She got so excited, she almost fell out of the wheelchair. Just anybody to go up and speak to her. It's like she never had anybody to talk to her at all, even though you can see the other kids looked after her, and we just Ron fell in love with her and said, "Well, we need to do something else, besides this to help these kids," but, she was just very special. So what we did, the bicycles, the Nook Nook Orphanage is down a narrow dirt road from the village. So the sister says, "Okay, I have selected the kids that I want to have these bicycles. Let's go on the bus, and we'll all get on the bus, and we'll go up to the road at the village where the bicycles are, and each child can get out and pick out the bicycle." So there are all the kids in the seat, and us old guys are standing up, or the sisters and so forth. But the kids are excited about going to pick out their bicycles. There are the bicycles. All of them have baskets and so forth, and so that's what they saw when they pulled up, and everybody in the village was there. It's like, what in the world's going on? We were the entertainment for the week, maybe for the year. And there the kids getting off and picking out their bicycles, and you can see the young lady giving us the two fingers up. That's a favorite sign of them, and that's the bicycle she picked out. We had someone there to adjust and brakes and fix everything, but the kids were excited about picking out their bicycles. Now there, what the sisters had all of them line up in a row so they could ride back to the orphanage all in a row, and the villagers were all over every place, but they were so excited to get their bicycles and so forth. And we were excited to get them for them too. There we are having lunch with and some of the kids and with the sisters. There's Mother Superior sitting there on your left with that big bowl of pho there. She was the one that remembered the sister back from 1965. And what I have here is the orphanage raises its own food to quite a bit. The bottom picture's got chickens in a chicken pen, and the top picture is their where they grow vegetables and so forth. And they also grow betel nut, which you Vietnam veterans will appreciate this. They still grow betel nut there. It's a mild narcotic, and you chew it, the stem on it, and it makes your teeth turn black and your gums turn black and red and recede. And if you ever seen Mama San smile with that one tooth of hers, and she's been chewing betel nut, it's quite a thing to remember. Okay. Now, when we got through with dinner, the kids wanted to entertain us. The top left young man is a Down syndrome young man. He picked me out because we were both a little heavier than the rest of the people. But I gave him my sunglasses to wear, but the sisters made him bring it back to me. So then I sneaked them in and told him he could have them. So he sneaked them in his little pouch there so nobody would know about it. The kids in the bottom right-hand corner, they were visually impaired, and they did a dance for us. We had some of the hearing impaired that did some singing for us. It was amazing. But Michael Jackson music was very popular there at the time. This is in the sisters eating area there at the orphanage. Now, this is their playground. And during the rainy season, it's hard to play because of the water, and you see some of the houses in the village and all behind it. But this is what they had to play in, and wasn't much to play. And there we are getting ready to leave. But before we left, we asked the sisters, "What do you need? What else do you need?" And the sister says, "Well, we really need a playground because you see all this concrete here, the mold and moss growing all over it. It's just dangerous. The kids slide around and so forth." So we said, "Okay, we'll think about it." So what I did later was I sent them a letter if they would take some bleach and some brushes with all those kids out there and put it on that moss and so forth, it would kill them, and they could the bleach, and they could just scrape it off and so forth for the time being. Now, North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated, we got back from Vietnam, all excited about the orphanage and some other things we did in Vietnam, which I'll do another show for you. Very special things. But we started talking about what can we do with the orphanage and so forth. So they, North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated, agreed to build a playground. But to us, a playground is not concrete. A playground is play equipment. So we decided that we were going to raise money to go out and build a playground and put the concrete in. Excuse me. The concrete, this is the people that help with the thing. The top on the left-hand side there are two of the men and the man at the bottom who were very instrumental in raising money with the Vietnam community. We went out and set up tables in front of nail salons, supply houses, some restaurants, and so forth. And the guy with the uniform on and the tie there, he was an LT. We called him lieutenant. The other guy, both the two are colonels. And hardly anybody got by him without putting some money in the bucket. So these three men were very special. There in the middle, you see the picture wood play of Carolinas. Those people were absolutely fantastic. They gave us a discount that you couldn't believe. In fact, the playground you see right there was very similar to the playground we put up. It was their display. We actually helped them take it down. We put it in a box and shipped it to Vietnam. They paid for all that. And then they gave us a big, big discount on it. Part of the Vietnam Veterans Incorporated who helped raise money was myself, Joe Harsh, you see in the picture, and Bob Matthews. The three of us pretty much ran the show and got it and so forth. But the three Vietnamese, the bottom man you see with his wife there, when Saigon fell, he continued fighting for about 30 to 45 days and spent about 12 years in re-education camps afterwards. So now this is the architectural rendering of the playground. Doesn't look like anything there at the orphanage, basically, but that's what the architect did there. And so we started the plans and so forth. And I ended up doing next week. Okay. This was a dormitory at the end. If you're looking at as you can see the classroom there in the right picture, this was at the other end from the original when we came there. I cannot remember the name of the group that put the dormitory there, but you can see all that concrete and stuff is torn out, and where the grass was is all torn out now. It's vacant and so forth. So I was very interested in making sure that whatever we put back had proper drainage and so forth. And it was a challenge, but I directed the construction and destruction of the concrete and the drainage and so forth by email. I had someone looking after it, but they'd had to send to me what they were planning on doing to make sure, and before I would give them any money. So we went back and forth on that, but that's tearing out, and we're going to see some of the construction back as we go along. There's Mr. Tam there in the middle. Tam works with Global Spectrum, a group out of DC area who has an office there in Dong Ha. They are fantastic people to work with. If you're going to go to Vietnam, you need to get in touch with Global Spectrum. As you can see there, the Mother Superior and Sister Mary are standing there watching the construction or destruction of the drainage pipes and so forth. And there's one of the drainage pipes going into the dirt. So some of the area that you saw before, it was grassy, and some of the area that was concrete and so forth has been torn out. So that's what they're doing there. Okay. Now, when we got on the bus going back, there was 4 of us, raised the money, and we shipped the playground over in the box. And we were very anxious to see what this new tile and concrete was going to look like. And if you, the bottom left, you see top left, you see the before, and on the after, you can see that nice concrete area out there Now, later we helped pave the rest of the area all the way up to the main building there. But that's what we saw when we came in. We were so excited when we pulled in. Also, what I did, I had designed a swing set and set the swings over with the box of playground, and had all kinds of architectural drawings off my drawings and so forth, which I couldn't understand because they're all in Vietnamese, but it looked like what I had drawn. So that's the raw space with the dormitory. There's the swing set without the swings and so forth. As you can see, they haven't quite run the tiles and the concrete all the way over yet. I think they were going to end up putting planning in there. But okay. Now, the bottom corner you see there, here's all the pieces. You have never seen so many bolts and nuts and so forth as you saw we're trying to put this together. On the left, we hung the swing. It was hard to hang the swings up because they were trying to swing while we were hanging them. We had lots of supervision because you remember right there is their classroom. So they were watching us when they came out on breaks. They were out all over everything and into everything. It was a lot of fun, but it was also a challenge. Now we are trying to work and put the playground up with the kids coming out, playing on it during breaks and afternoons. But the basketball goal we carried there. We carried a badminton bowl. Somewhere I think there's a picture of a seesaw we took and so forth. So that's us putting the playground together. The four of us plus the two young Vietnamese men that was helping us. One of them become a good friend, and he's since gotten married and had a child and got his own, doing very well for himself. So, that's Sister Mary, who was tough, but she took good care of us, and the sister, Mother Superior behind her. There's a view of the concrete and the swings and so forth. And there's a bridge, the plaque we put up, North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated and the Bridgeback Foundation, dedicated this playground to the Sweetwater Orphanage March 2012. We were there in 2009. We raised the money and went back. It took us a little bit, but that's some of the people who were there on the original trip and so forth. Okay. Now, if you see me, that's me in the upper picture there. And the sisters, we had a good time with the sisters. They all had a good sense of humor. They had never seen anybody my size. They were always coming up and rubbing my belly and saying, "Happy Buddha." So they're the sisters all laughing at me and my stomach. I worked hard for that. But we had a good time with it. The right-hand picture, when we all got through, they gave us a ceremony with the kids, entertaining and so forth. When we got through, that's me down on the ground. You see a lot of old whitehead guys there. But he said, "All right, Sisters Mary said, let the kids have a piece of candy." So they came up with a big tray there, and they came up and waited for each one of them to get their one piece of candy. They didn't mob me or whatever. The bottom picture there are the four of us who put the playground together. We can see with the kids, and that's Sister Mary, and that's our going away shot, so forth there on the thing. Now, while we were building this, the kids were drawing pictures, show us how much they picked. Now, I was told the one on the right says, "Thank you, Uncle." I don't know for certain, but I got a whole stack. I've got probably a couple dozen of those pictures there of the kids that drew on the playground and so forth. They were very special. Those kids just appreciated it so much. And there was one little girl I want to bring home so much. All right, this is us going back to the orphanage in 2014. That's a swing set. The playground equipment there had gone through a couple of tornadoes or hurricanes. They lost one of the canopies, but you can see they fixed it. They had restained it. There's the original building. You can see the right there. This is the sisters that were there that particular day. We had a picture with them. Now, what I want to show you is you see the picture with the kids there. They're at the Special Olympics. You remember the girl in the wheelchair who just went all the pieces? Well, if you look, that red arrow, that's her. I don't know whether our playground being there gave her the strength and courage to get out of that wheelchair, but there she is at Special Olympics, and that's such a special group of kids. All right, now what I want to do is introduce you to, as we were getting ready to leave, one of the young sisters came up and gave something to Sister Mary. Sister Mary gave me a disc and said, "This is for your. This is we did this for you, and we wanted to give it to you." And I said, "Great!" So I got home, all excited to look at it, and I couldn't. It didn't have a format that I knew anything about. So what we did was, or I did was, I put it away. And a couple of weeks ago, I got it out and I brought it over here to Amnon and said, "I got this fantastic tape, but I've never seen it. What can we do?" And he found a way to go in and find the right format. So since he's the genius who's found the right format, we want to share this with you. It was made by one of the young sisters there, and you'll see some of the same pictures that I just showed you, but it's very special, done by one of the young sisters, and it was by the Sweetwater Orphanage, Sweetwater, to show how much they appreciate it. And it just warms your heart and warms mine. I hope you find it as exciting as I have as we watch it. It's short. There we are in the meeting room, getting ready to trying to figure out how to put the playground together. There we're having our meeting of what we're going to do and so forth. Sister Mary's given us the rules and regulations of what we can do as far as the kids. There's some of the kids there at the orphanage. Some more of the children. This young man you see standing there, his name was Mac. He was working with Global Spectrum. He's now in Myanmar, working with Global Spectrum, last I heard. There we are trying to figure out how to put the playground together and hang in the swings. We had Sister Mary to try them out and they didn't fall. There we are again working on the playground with a lot of children supervision. Of course, the playground with the kids on it. There we are still working on the playground while they're playing. Now that sliding board is still on the ground. The swings hardly ever stop moving. Some of the kids posing, they love to pose. On the seesaw. I don't think there's regulation on the seesaw with 6 kids, but it worked for them. Trying to teach them how to play basketball. There we are trying to figure out how to put the basketball up. The first time we put it up, it was backwards. That ladder, I would say Ho Chi Minh used that when he was a young boy because that thing was a piece of junk. We climbed it anyway. That's me trying to hang the swings. Playground's coming together, eat a little bit more each day. You see that wonderful ladder again? Back when we were first getting started. Wish I'd gotten a sister to show me how to do all this fancy things. She did a fantastic job. Some of the kids up on the dormitory looking down on us. We always got Sister Mary to try everything first. This was at the little ceremony, thanking us ceremony. And I think that's one of the sisters holding the plans. No, that's the kids in class, supposed to be in class doing their work. Probably making those drawings that you saw. There we are getting ready to have our closing ceremony presentation. Sister Mary running thing got us sitting up there in the front with all the kids. Tell you what, that's a way to take 4 old men and make them feel very special, working with those kids. There's the plaque that you saw. Some of the kids, again, each color uniforms is kind of a different handicap. But when they did it, the presentation or whatever they did as far as singing, dancing, and so forth was awesome. I don't remember what color that uniform. I don't remember what color that uniform meant. There were so many different handicaps there, and different classes. That's some of the kids. That is Ron Fitzsimmons, Bob Matthews, and Bob Kay was there someplace. I missed him. Getting down on the mats with the children. Now, I have no idea how she got up on the dormitory to take these pictures. I never noticed, none of us there ever noticed them. There's all the sisters and so forth with Sister Mary and her Mother Superior. This playground equipment has gone through several hurricanes and so forth, and it's still done well. There's Bob Kay. Yeah, that's Bob Kay. The other one was Ron. I'm sorry. I mean to see it. Like I said, we had a great time with the sisters. They picked on us, we picked on them, and we all picked on the kids. We spent about as much time playing with the kids as we did putting up the playground equipment. In fact, the last day I was chasing one of the kids, and she turned, and I tried to turn, but my old body didn't turn. I ended up with a pulled hamstring to ride home on the airplane. were giving out the candy. Now, some of the kids, all of them would wait until you gave them a piece, but once in a while you'd have a little entrepreneur who would put a piece in his pocket and then reach for another piece, but nobody grabbed a whole handful of anything.
Mọc cao ta cùng ngàn sao không còn cách xa, nào ta nắm chặt tay cho tình thân ai không còn cách xa.
Now, I want you to notice the yellow slide in the back. I'm going to tell you a little story about that when we through. As you see, we're in the closing ceremonies, and it's not put together yet. Mother Superior.
Có hoàng tử khôi ngô bên đời và em hồn nhiên hát ca.
Sister Mary. She wasn't there on our last trip. Kids in the classroom. They were all little angels. Well, except for the Down syndrome. He was a character. Santa Claus visiting the orphanage. A little short because Sister Mary is not tall. That's a church right up from the orphanage. In the classroom. Well, that was the thing put together by the sisters. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. That orphanage, as you can see, takes good care of those kids. They're all clean, well taken care of, but they struggling always for money to do the things. If you are interested in helping the Nook Nook Orphanage, contact either myself or even better, Global Spectrum. Global Spectrum has an office in Dong Ha, but their office is also in Tyson's Corner. Not Tyson's Corner. Uh, I can tell you the street and everything else, but I think it was Tyson. We'll say it's Tyson's Corner. But you can go online for Global Spectrum. Marcia Silva there has done some fantastic things over in Vietnam. She had that dormitory built there. We worked quite a bit with some of the other schools and orphanages there, which I'll talk to you about in another show. You know, people always ask me, well, why in the world did you go back to Vietnam after you've been there for the war? Well, we went back the first time basically just to see what we could see. I mean, that 1 year affected our lives, the rest of our lives, so much. That 1 year, and some of us spent more, but my year was plenty for me at that time. Just wanted to see what it was, but went back and we got there working with it. We saw the kids in the orphanage and what they didn't have and so forth, and what they needed. And we also went to, in Quang Tri Province, a home for the visually impaired there, and we discovered that children that were had some kind of impairment, whatsoever, handicapped in any way whatsoever, the government did very little, if anything, for them. So all the money and all the stuff that at Nook Nook Orphanage that was came from donations and so forth. There were some of the students there who went to school there. There was a small tuition for them to go, and when they couldn't afford it, the families couldn't afford the tuitions, the sisters paid it for them. And the sisters, of course, didn't have a whole lot of money. So we're excited about working with them and helping them, continue helping them any way we can. But if you, as I mentioned a while ago, going back to Vietnam, it just kind of brought things back around again, seeing the kids and so forth, going to visit some of the places we went. We went all over Saigon, saw the changes there since I was there. I've been back 3 times. I'd like to go back one more time to see a couple places, and also to go back to Nook Nook Orphanage there right outside of Hue, as well as the orphanage in Dong Ha that we built playgrounds for. Those kids are just so appreciated. You'd have to have a really hard heart to go over there and not fall in love with these kids. These kids are not communists. One of the young men that was helping us has done very well for himself, but he told me that it was only so far he could go working because he was not a member of the Communist Party, so that he was somewhat limited. But working with Global Spectrum and the Mind Action Center and a couple other places, he's done very well. We're on Facebook friends. He's always posting. He's all over every place. Does a lot of good eating because he's always showing what he's eating and so forth. But lately he's been showing that young baby of his and his wife. So hopefully that we were able to touch his life also while we were there. It means so much to see this film. I'm sorry that it took this long for us to find it, but thanks to Amnon, we were able to get on and see it. I'm going to do another show to show you the entire trip, what we did with the Quang Tri Providence, some of our visits to Saigon and so forth, the War Remnants Museum, which used to be called the American Atrocity Museum, which is now, since we are friendly with Vietnam, that it's called the War Remnants Museums there. We went to the trip through the presidential palace and so forth. So if you're a Vietnam vet and you've been hesitating, I highly recommend you go back. There are still 2 Vietnams, basically. South Vietnam is still South Vietnam. Everything's for sale. They got beautiful hotels. They're really nice. The people are nice. There's always somebody wanting to sell you something, though. If you stop for a couple minutes, or if you're on a bus or something, As soon as you stop, they'll come around and try to sell you stuff. But I tell you what, the prices are great. Uh, and pick out an orphanage like Sweetwater and see what you can do for them when you go back. If you are not a veteran and you want to go to Vietnam, and also Global Spectrum will set you up as a guest teacher where you can go in and teach English or whatever in different schools and so forth all over Vietnam, or just work in the orphanage in different schools doing different things. There's always plenty of things over there to do. You're safe. There's a lot of you never see anybody, hardly ever see anybody in a military uniform. You will see the police around to make sure that you know that you're the same. But they also have a lot of people who are not in uniforms who's there and to make sure that tourists are not done bad things too. I know I was out with my camera around in my hand, and they came up and told me that they suggested I put it around my neck so that somebody couldn't jerk it out of my hand and so forth. And so they're out there. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the play. Too many different things going on here. I'm taking some medication that makes me a little crazier than normal, but there's a lot of opportunities out there. You know, people have also asked when we said we were raising money for the playground, so forth. Why are you helping those kids over there when the kids back here, some of them need playgrounds? Well, one of the reasons I went back over there because a short pencil, a nub, means a whole lot to them. Because a while ago when I showed you, you saw where they were giving out candy. Those kids didn't mob us. They were very polite. When we came in, it was they stood up and so forth. Some of the kids here probably need, but it's a lot of organizations and things going on in this country to help those kids. But these kids over there had nothing. The Vietnamese community, the Vietnamese American community did a fantastic job in helping us raise money. Like I said, we stood out in front of nail salons and the suppliers for the salons and so forth. And they put a lot of money in. I'll tell you, the trip, the playground, and we paid our own way on Always. We paid our own way back. It was about $3,800 and some odd dollars for us to pay our way back. We paid for that. But altogether, the playground, the shipping, everything was close to $30,000 and with the concrete and so forth. But it was all paid for by donations, $5, $10 here. The Vietnamese community, and a lot of the Americans and veteran support groups. The BVA kicked in money. American Legions kicked in money. So there's a lot of money put together for us to go back over and do this. And so the name of all the veterans organizations out there that helped, those kids were so appreciative, and I'm gonna be their spokesman and tell you how much we appreciated what you did for them and the other playground we put together, and all the stuff that when we went to the school for the visually impaired community here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Helped us with what to carry and gave us some things and so forth to carry with us. And so we were able to touch those kids too, and I'm going to show you those. But the sisters and everybody there was so special. And I'm running a little short on long tonight, but I want to just tell you all about just seeing this video that the sisters made meant so much. Like I said, the opportunities are there if you want to get out and go someplace. Vietnam is a gorgeous country. The food is good. The price of $3,800, that was mostly plane fare. It's a long flight. You fly over, and then we flew again. After we got there, we flew from Saigon, Tan over to Da Nang or Phu Bai. I think we flew into Phu Bai. We also flew into Da Nang, but that was a good part of that. But it's like $17 to $20 American to $1 Vietnamese. So you can go over and live in fantastic resorts. Shopping is good, jewelry, clothes. So if you get a chance, go over and visit. Chances are whatever you're wearing came from Vietnam anyway right now, because they're really taking China to a task as far as clothes. I haven't seen much clothes lately. I don't buy a whole lot, but when I do, it seems like they're always from Vietnam. And Nike is in Vietnam. A lot of companies and so forth over there. But the children of the dust, of course, most of them now are grown, but they have had children. Uh, all the children there in the orphanage are not orphans. Some of the children have parents, but because they're handicapped and they get no help, the parents barely make enough money to support themselves, so they have to take their kids there to the orphanage. The young man that I told you about, Agent Orange, which the name of the disease he has, I'm still not getting it to my mind. A little senior moment here, but the last time we were back, he was home visiting his family. Uh, he is still alive, and normally the people who have this disease do not live past their 12th birthday. He was 7 when we were there, but he is still alive and doing well. So I hope he's still alive even today. Uh, but he could not talk, but he was everywhere. He loved vehicles and cars. He loved to watch cars go by. We put him in the bus, and he was just so excited. But there's somebody carrying him around and loving up on him almost all the time. The kids looked after him and so forth. Uh, Sister Mary was definitely your provincial Catholic sister. She didn't put up with no junk, but she was a sweetheart to us, and she would bring out dessert for us every now and then. They would cook cookies and watermelon and bring it out and doing it while we were working together. See, Wood Play puts that playground together in a day and a half. It took us a week. And as I mentioned a while ago, you look at the yellow slide tube coming down. It was still not put together when we left. We would probably still be there if we had to put it together, because it is a complicated thing with the twist. You have to be able to read directions and do what it says. And the four of us were not, four of us and the 2 Vietnamese were trying to help us, were not the best on reading those instructions. The first piece you put on, the second piece, you move it just a little bit to the next bolts, to the next one. So what we did was there was a Vietnamese contractor there. He said he'd put it together for $50. So we gave him the $50 and he put it together. But it didn't exactly, he got it together. I still haven't figured out how he got it together, because in one spot you're going uphill on the slide. I've never seen a slide before that actually you're sliding down and all of a sudden you're going up and then go back down again. But that's how he's put it together. But it's together and the kids enjoy it. So that was all that mattered. They were there on it. But it's kind of when I took it back, I took pictures back and showed it to Wood Play. Those people were fantastic. If you're gonna buy wooden playground equipment, talk to Wood Play. Listen, those people put a lot of money out of their pocket into that, and especially the second ground. But he thought it was hilarious that the tube was actually going uphill for a while. But those kids are still enjoying it. It's gone through, as like I said, a couple of hurricanes. It just blows me away that how well that has put together, because during the rainy season over there, it rains. Oh boy, does it rain. So if you want to go to Vietnam, make sure you check the weather and do not go during the monsoon season, because you will stay wet 24 hours a day. But that's the story of the playground, Nook Nook, or as we call it, Sweetwater, because we can't hardly pronounce Nook Nook. But that's the story of the Nook Nook. I hope I didn't bore you tonight, but those kids were just so special. And we will see you January 23rd is our next show. This is our first show of the year. I do hope you enjoy meeting the kids and seeing the playground. And happy New Year and all that sort of stuff. I hope you've got a good start for 2019. I almost said 18. I'm still having problems with putting 2019 down when I sign, but it'll take me a while. As you get a little gray-headed like this, you get in bad habits. By the time 2019 is ended, I'll be really good at putting down, and I'll run that into 2020. So I hope you're doing much better than I am. Happy New Year. Looking forward to see you January 23rd. Go out and and I know all of you have kept your New Year's resolutions, but if you haven't, a good resolution to be to help the kids in Vietnam some. I know that a lot of kids here need help, but you can help both. Help those kids in Vietnam because they have nothing and they appreciate anything. Uh, you have a good night and a good week ahead of you. Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.